So that feeling that's in your chest that's pulling you forward, that feels a little fluttery, feels a little nervous, that's your intuition. That's your intuition. If your intuition is saying, oh my God, I really want to do this and it's scary and I'm not 100% sure about the finances, I'm not 100% sure that I'll get what I need, I'm not 100% sure I'll show up. That is your intuition just telling you move forward. Whenever you feel that flutter of excitement, it's telling you this is the right path for you. So move on. Welcome to Life After Corporate, your ultimate guide for making the leap from corporate leader to entrepreneur. I'm Deb Boulanger, entrepreneur, executive leader, and founder of the Launch Lab for Women Entrepreneurs. This is your time to break through the glass ceiling once and for all and get your ticket to the C-suite. Come back each week to get the leading strategies, advice, and tools that will give you the skills and confidence you need to replace your corporate paycheck. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome back to the Proven Profit Path. This is my fight song. And I tell you, this is not the journey for the faint of heart. If you have ever had a friend or family member say something akin to, are you sure you shouldn't just go back and get another job? Like, raise your hand if anyone has ever said, are you sure you're doing the right thing? Are you sure you don't want to go get a regular paycheck? Wouldn't that be easier? So actually standing in your belief in yourself, standing in your passion it's a superpower of women entrepreneurs. And sometimes we need to shift our own energy, and there's no better way to shift your energy than turning on some music like Fight Song from Rachel Palin. It's a great one to get the energy moving in your body. Because today we're going to wrap it up with your prioritize your CEO plan. But before we do that, yesterday we talked about the prominent position in your marketplace. Just curious, who came up with some rooms that you could be showing up in or ways that you could create more prominence in your category, maybe by flipping the script and sharing more paradigm shifts or new ways of thinking about things in your post? Who came up with an idea after yesterday's session? Yes.
I had a great connection yesterday with a gentleman who's doing a very complementary business, and we agreed to do a referral back and forth. But even we're talking about even connecting like my services, portion of my services, to be like the first step in what he's doing going forward, because he's building out a biograph, and it's kind of a life story for ultra high net wealth individuals. And part of what I provide for services are helping them to find their why, a why discovery session kind of thing. And if that could be a first step. So it's a new way for me to get potential referrals and kind of hone in on what my strength is.
That's beautiful. So someone who's adjacent in your category, but is earlier in your process or later in your process, those people are great referral partners. I just had a conversation this morning with a woman in Chicago who is a recruiter and works with a lot of women in midlife who wanting to shift careers. And I said, well, if you ever have someone who wants to shift careers and shift into entrepreneurship, we have a referral partner program and would be happy to share more about that. So always in the conversations that you're having with people, always looking for those opportunities. So that's great. Anyone else with an insight from yesterday and how you could be a little bit more bold in how you're posting on social media? Maybe stand out a little bit stronger with your words. I think the more you can share your passion and what you really care about, that lets people know who you are and what your values are, and also your thought leadership, like how you think about things differently. All right, let's dive in today, because this is going to wrap it up in a tidy bow for you. And if you remember to day 3, when we talked about the reliable revenue calculator, and you put in your revenue goal, and maybe you modeled out some different price points for your services, and it calculated for you exactly how many clients you would need to reach. And based on your close rate, which I understand a lot of you don't understand what your close rate is yet, and that's okay, the number of prospects you need to speak with at any given point in time. And then yesterday, we talked about the reliable revenue framework for creating referral partners, showing up in rooms. I have a 3-2-1 strategy with 3 speaking engagements a month on other people's platforms, 2 high converting lead magnets, and 1 piece of high value content every single day that we promote to our networks. Just sticking to that kind of schedule makes revenue growth reliable and predictable in your business. So once you understand what your conversion levers are and you manage your time and your priorities to focus on those things, you don't have to do a lot of things. And that's the beautiful part of it. So let me dive in. Takeaways, we talked about where can you offer things to your community? Where are your ideal clients gathering? Where can you get referral partners and speak in organizations? So every day I've shared a little bit something different about me. So in case you don't know, I'm a planner, and this is actually my current planner in the picture. And I set annual, quarterly, and monthly plans. I have a weekly agenda and a daily win. And win stands for what's important now. And it came from, there was a coach, and I can't remember his name, but I believe he coached the Notre Dame football team. And he created the what's important now. It's a way of focusing your attention on the one thing that is going to move the needle of growth for your business. So the one thing is a concept. It's a book by Gary Keller, who is the founder of Keller Williams Real Estate. The one thing is the one thing that makes everything else easier or unnecessary. And we'll talk about the one thing when we chat in the live room later. My schedule is I work 10 to 6 Monday through Thursday and 10 to 4 on Fridays. So there's spaciousness in my calendar. I take lunch breaks and I walk my dog, and I have a 3-hour morning routine. And if you're curious about it, you can ask me about it. So this is the Proven Profit Path framework. Today, we are prioritizing the plan, where we prioritize your CEO schedule to actually align to your plan so that you're not off chasing bright, shiny objects or doing things that out of fear or resistance or procrastination. And instead, you're narrowing your focus on the things that actually matter, that will move the needle of growth for your business. So today's agenda is everything starts with your goal. Our next step is to prioritize the plan and then to syncopate your rhythm as a CEO. Now, your business has a rhythm. Our business has a rhythm. Kim and I have a rhythm of working together. Kim and I meet every Monday. Every other month, we have one of these 5-day challenges, depending on who we're talking to in our market, more advanced entrepreneurs or those getting started. And this is something that has come out of 10 years of being in business, that we have this rhythm that's reliable for our business. And you adjust as you go, as you learn, as you measure. So chief CEO does not equal chief everything officer. And I know some of you may be feeling overwhelmed because not only are you strategy and planning, you're also sales, marketing, client service, finance, business intelligence. So how do you prioritize your time? So a question to get you started, how do you plan today? What planning methodology are you using? Do you have a planning methodology? How do you organize your time to reach your goal without burning out? All right, 3-2-1. So 3-2-1 was 3 speaking engagements a month, 2 high converting lead magnets. We're not really talking about lead magnets here, but lead magnets are free offers that solve an immediate challenge that your ideal client is facing in exchange for their email address. And this is how people actually get on your email list and you start having conversations. So all of you are on my email list now. And now I have a responsibility to you to share something interesting every week. And so that's how we nurture connections who come to us in our communities, and people have the option of opting out anytime it's no longer of interest to them. And one high value post every single day, whether that's long form post on LinkedIn, a short video on Instagram, whatever that is, that you're posting something in your networks every single day. So that was 3-2-1. So the question is, do you have a planning methodology today? So reverse engineer your revenue goal. Your plan for your day actually comes from your revenue goal. So if I look at this example here, so here's a revenue goal of 200,000. There's three products. There's a low-end offer or a starter package. There's a core offer that's 9,000. So this could be the core offer at 3,000. Then the next upsell is 9,000 and a high-end offer at 25. And if we want 20% of the revenue to come from the core offer at the bottom end of the spectrum, and then we expect that 40% of revenue respectively will come from the other two, we're looking for 25 clients. And that's our goal for the year, is to find 25 clients to say yes and to get into one of these buckets. And we want 3 people in our high-end offer, 9 in our mid-tier, and 13 in our bottom. And because this is a relatively new entrepreneur, the close rate is not super high. It's about 1 out of 5 conversations. And that means 127 prospects and 3 conversations a week. So this becomes easy and it becomes manageable. And so if my goal is 3 conversations per week, how am I managing my time to ensure that just by my regularly showing up in my networks, in my channels, I am getting 3 people a week to book a call with me on my calendar who are curious about what it would be like to work together. So that makes it easy, right? And now you look at how you're spending your time. So the 80-20 rule, Pareto's principle, still applies. 80% of revenue is going to come from 80% of your activity needs to be revenue generating activity. So 80% of your time is on generating revenue, especially when you're first getting started. That means sales, marketing, networking, connection calls, speaking engagements, and 20% of your time is focused on everything else. And the same applies to your clients. 80% of your clients are going to come from 20% of your efforts. And when we mentioned that we were packaging standout webinars as part of our package for you, for those of you who sign up for the Launch Lab, standout webinars and having a webinar, a workshop, a talk, whatever you want to call it, that converts on a regular basis is $1 million strategy. And all you have to do is master that one skill in order to be of service to the professional networks that you belong to, and volunteer and say, hey, I understand a lot of people in this community are struggling with XYZ. I happen to have this talk. Does it make sense for us to schedule a virtual session or an in-person workshop that I could deliver for free, right? So you're not getting paid for it. You're getting paid by being able to make an offer to that community, whether that is to join a community, to book a call, whatever that is. So 80% of your clients will come from 20% of your efforts. So we want to narrow down what is that 20% of your effort that's going to generate that type of results. And so when you're starting, we're spending our time on first things first. So you might not be doing revenue generating activity when you first get started. You're doing your research, you're building out your service offerings, and you're preparing to launch. Now, as you get into the grow stage, that's when you want to have your visibility plan really dialed in, because the research that we've done in the start phase tells us exactly what our ideal clients care about. And that informs our content strategy. It informs our conversion events, what we're talking about in our webinars, and it helps us to automate our lead nurture campaigns, because the most important thing is that you stay relevant, that you're actively listening to your audience and what they care about most. And then we want to delegate or automate any non-core tasks like finance or admin. All of you should have an automatic calendar tool. You're not going back and forth with people who want to speak with you on what days you're available. You send out a calendar link, you automate those things. And then when you're at scale stage, or really between visibility and scale, you still have a visibility plan. Where am I being seen? Where is my voice being heard? Where am I connecting with my ideal clients? Where am I letting them know I see them, I hear them, I understand them, I get them? And then, what is your content strategy? And where are those conversion events? And how often are you offering them? Are you offering them every other month? Are you offering them once a quarter? As I mentioned with 3-2-1, I like to take an asset, which is a talk I've created, and offer that to different communities. So I can do my pricing masterclass to all sorts of different communities. I don't have to just offer it to my audience. I can offer it to a professional network. I can offer it to an industry association. So where are those conversion events on your calendar? So one is yours and two are on other people's platforms. And then what are your standard operating procedures? When you get to scale, you can't scale unless you have documented your standard operating procedures. Because as you build your team, as you begin to delegate and build a virtual team at first, and then bring on your first hires in sales, marketing, service delivery, you need to be able to document how you do business. And so different priorities at different stages of growth. So when you're starting, I probably could have put sales here because you also want to start generating your first sales as you're doing your market research and building out your product suite and your pricing and bringing it to market. So let's break it down. You need a quarterly plan. So what are my priorities this quarter? And right now we're in November and we're planning for Q1 next year. Actually, we start a full year view because there are events that we host, there are events that we attend. So we want to get those events on the calendar first and then look at the quarter. What are our objectives for that quarter? How does that revenue goal line up quarter by quarter? So if you are in an industry where most people are taking off in August for holiday, then July, August might not be the highest converting months for you. Some people have businesses where summer is the highest converting month for them. That's where they get the most of their revenue. So looking at your seasonality in your business is super important as well. And then your monthly plan. When you have an annual financial goal, let's just say it's 200,000, then you have a goal of generating 20,000 a month in top line revenue. So where is that revenue coming from? What are your conversion events? Where will people come into contact with you and have the opportunity to make a decision to work with you or not? And then there are your weekly priorities. And I'll share with you how to actually block your time on a weekly basis to accomplish everything that you need to accomplish in a week. And so people say I'm really disciplined. I just happen to not like having to make on the spot decisions of how I'm going to spend my time. So the organization really helps me focus, and the focus helps me be more consistent with growth. And then the daily win, the what's important now is really sitting down when sometimes you might have 5 things on your calendar and you can only do 3. So asking yourself that question, and I got that actually from a client who gave that to me, was what's important now? What is the number one thing that I need to focus my attention on that's going to make everything else easier? So for me, we're hiring a marketing leader for our company. And that marketing leader is my one thing for next year, because once that person is on board, everything else becomes easier for me. And some things on my calendar become unnecessary because I can delegate them. So that's how we want to think about how you're spending your time. And for me, my schedule looks like this. So I'm a big fan of blocking your time and batching your tasks. And here's why. There's no such thing as multitasking. It's attention switching. And whenever you're switching your attention from content creation to a sales call to a client engagement, you're actually losing momentum and you're losing the benefit of just generating more goodness. Like if I'm having sales calls, I want to be just meeting new people one slot after the other and getting the excitement up and being curious about what's going on in people's lives. If I'm delivering to clients, I am in service delivery mode. I am listening intently. I am channeling new ideas, trying to create new opportunities for the clients that we're working with. And there are times when I need to shut out everything else and just focus on my own planning, on my own content development. And there are times I need to meet with my team. So for me, Monday mornings are planning time. That's when I sit and I say, okay, what is going on this week? What's going on in each of our group programs? So we have 3 group programs. This is the 6-Figure Accelerator, the Reliable Revenue Mastermind, and the Launch Lab is on Thursdays. So am I clear what we're coaching, what we're teaching, how we're serving people in our programs this week? That's my first question. My second question is looking at all the green spots on my calendar. Do we have 5 sales calls scheduled this week? If not, Christina's going to get a call from me and we're going to figure out, well, who in our network really needs some support that we can help out with a business breakthrough session. And then, of course, there's clients who I support one-on-one. Fridays is a really popular day for one-on-one clients. Also, Wednesday and Thursday afternoons are great for clients. And then collaboration calls. When are you going to have those calls with the people who are potential partners? And I also have collaboration calls with other coaches on my team on Monday afternoons. Kim and I meet every Monday at noon to make sure we have our ducks in a row and we know exactly what's happening in our calendar this week. So any questions on prioritizing time? Where does doing the work fit in? The 80%. Right. So 80% is, can you unmute and ask that question?
Sure. It was on the 80-20 rule.
Yes.
So that was sales and marketing and some other items. And then all of that is to achieve a sale. And then there's work to be done. So does that I would call that turnover, turning that revenue over. Does that go in that 80% or does that go in the 20% of everything else?
So the 80% is really everything that happens here, the planning, the collaboration, the sales calls, the content development, which is also a revenue generating activity, referral time or how I get coached is also where I'm expanding my knowledge. So to me, that's like the 80% that generates revenue. And then this is the result of generating revenue is I'm in service delivery. And these client days are really wild cards. I don't always have I have about 4 private clients that I serve. And quarterly in the 6-figure accelerator, my clients get quarterly planning sessions with me. So these aren't always filled. But 80% of your results come for 20% of your effort. And 20% of your effort is your webinars, your workshops, the times that you're out there speaking. Hope that helps.
Thank you.
Yes.
If you have sales calls, how do you get everybody else to coordinate? That's the time that's available. How is everybody coordinated with other people's calendars? Or
you program your calendar. So Calendly is a great automatic booking tool that we use. And so we can say, and this is just an example, I might have sales days on Thursdays and Fridays as well. But you just select the time, like this time slot at my calendar is only available on these days and these times. So you program it in.
And so that if the person that you're trying to have the call with isn't available in that time, you don't make that call. I just struggle with like the coordination with other people's calendars.
Yeah, so they can book 2 or 3 weeks out. Not everyone will get it. So my calendar books out about 2 weeks in advance normally, unless I block it like I've blocked for you guys. So they compare their calendar to yours, and it might be the next week or the week following. Or what we do is if we know we're going to have a conversion event, we will block the time for those conversations on our calendar. And usually I'll block more time. So I'll block more time so that people have slots available to them. And Sandra, you can always say, if you can't find a time that works for you, just let me know and we'll work something out.
Okay. And so this representative of this particular week, for example, is not the same. It's not dead stamp each week. You do the same thing on the same day and whatnot, right? Or is it?
Yeah. So I'll show you my actual calendar. As long as you don't get scared by it, I can show you what my calendar looks like. So this is next week. Okay. So you see roughly it adheres to that, so I've blocked.
Okay.
Right.
I'm going to create one of those. I really like that.
Oh, cool. Nothing like, it was scary, by the way, to share my calendar. I just want you to know that.
Well, thank you, Dale.
Everything in service, right? Everything in service to be of help. Yes.
So that is incredible. And it looks like so many things you've shared. Very valuable. Does the Launch Lab program include a deeper dive on how to do that? Because, I've been contemplating, I need to learn how to effectively block my calendar and stay on it and that type of thing. And I'm just wondering if the Launch Lab includes more on that beyond this, or if it would be valuable for me to invest in something else to acquire that?
No, we cover it in the launch lab. We can cover anything at any time. It happens to be in module 5, where we're kind of pulling everything together as the culmination of, okay, here you are, here are your clients, here's your one-page business plan, here's your pro forma financial forecast. Now let's plan your calendar to support that financial forecast. So we do it in the launch lab.
Okay. So it really feels to me like it's holistic, very
Yes.
holistic. It's your one stop for everything you need to know to launch. Okay.
Yes, it is your one-stop shop to launch. And nothing is off the table because we do live sessions. If you have a question on sales calls, or if you have a question on AI, I mean, I've been known to do a demo on Chat GPT in the launch
Okay.
lab as well, if it's of service to the people in the room. So that's why it's a really robust program.
Okay. Can I ask you another question, or is that?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm hung up on the where you do the thinking and the working. So related to your schedule, you have all of these appointments. Where are you prepping for those?
Well, that's a good question. My prep is really fast. So if I've been working with people, I'll take 15 minutes before a client call and I'll get on. My prepping and deep thinking is on Sundays, really.
Oh, it is. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Because I mean, you really do need CEO time where you can be creative and sit with your planner and your calendar and just say, hey, where am I going here? Where am I going over the next year? In fact, Kim and I were talking right before this that week between Christmas and New Year's is when, I get my new planner and I'm so excited. So it's like, what's the vision for this year? And it's a great segue too. So on Sunday, when we do our bonus Q&A, I'm going to lead you through a visioning exercise. We're going to do a little guided meditation together. So if you come on Sunday, bring your journal, because understanding where it is you're going and who is the she that you are becoming is also key to aligning your body and your mind behind the vision that you're creating. So hopefully you'll join us on Sunday. It's going to be a really nourishing session for everyone, and we get to ask more questions. So prioritized plan equals reliable revenue, and reliable revenue is what enables you to grow and scale your business. And so in the room today, we have Maya Nadeem. Maya is an operational executive, fractional COO, growth expert. She is an in-demand advisor for real estate firms and small businesses in general. And Maya, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when we first met, there was a lot of bright, shiny objects going on, all things to all people. She was a fractional COO, and a lot of activity was being thrown over the fence for her to handle. And she was feeling burnt out. So caution, if you are thinking about adopting a fractional role as part of your business model, you can become all things to all people if you don't narrowly scope what your role is there for. So we narrowed down her offers. We're increasing her visibility. We're developing some systems and processes to enable her to scale. Katie Cabanas is also in the room. She's a fractional CMO and communications leader, helping small businesses grow and dominate in their category. She joined the Launch Lab to dial in her offers. She increased her prices, increased her presence in her local market, now has more reliable revenues, more lucrative contracts, is increasing her visibility and dialing in her marketing and messaging. And both Maya and Katie have been through the Launch Lab and are now in the Reliable Revenue Mastermind. So they can probably speak to what it's like to work with me. So welcome Maya and Katie to the live room.
Thank you, Deb. Hi, everyone.
Hi, how are you? We're all here together.
Hi,
So I'd love to
everyone.
ask you guys a couple of questions. So I know it's been a while since you were in the Launch Lab, but love to hear from Katie. Why don't you start, and then we'll go to Maya. Why did you join the Launch Lab? What was going on in your business before, and what was the experience that you had during that time?
So I joined the Launch Lab in my 5th year in business, and what I realized is that I needed a more of a framework to clarify my offerings, and that very much did that through the Launch Lab experience, and specifically the market research that you include in one of the modules, and then the idea of taking an offering and saying, we're going to do this, and there's both intangible and tangible deliverables that you're going to have for your client, and then pricing that, and then thinking about how am I going to market that. And by the way, my background is in marketing. So you had to kind of get over, wait a minute, shouldn't I know this? Well, yes, I can have 25 years of experience in marketing for other people, but when have I marketed myself? And so that leads me to kind of the second piece of there's the structure, the framework that I mentioned. And then secondly, with Deb, there's a little bit of the entrepreneurship as a spiritual journey. And if that sounds woo-woo, I probably would have thought that had I been in your shoes or in your stilettos a while back. But I realized that nothing like entrepreneurship, as Deb says, to kick up your stuff. And I use that often, attributing it to Deb with my own clients, because it really does. When you come into a roadblock, you are professional women with experience and you are doing something new. So when you hit the roadblock, it doesn't mean, oh, crap, you know what? I wouldn't cut out for this. Like, oh, you know what? That's it. And so that was the thing that was a really beautiful experience to have the framework, a little bit of the tough love on occasion, and not so tough when you're really needed the not so tough version, and then learning from one another, because in as much as you learn from your own questions being answered, you learn, like if Maya has a question or something along those lines, I learned by hearing about Maya's approach, even though we're in a completely different category and she is an expert in all things in the real estate industry, completely different. And yet we learn from one another. So how's that, Deb? Did that
Thanks. Thanks. And Maya was on retreat with me this September, and she said, Deb, you're sweet and scary. And I happen to love that, Maya. So I love that label, and I will receive that and I will own that. Maya, what about you? What was your experience? Why did you join the Launch Lab, and what was the result?
For me, it was slightly different than Katie. I had zero entrepreneurial experience. I was coming off of 2 decades in corporate, being an executive vice president, chief growth officer, chief operating officer, and I had worked for all of these high-powered entrepreneurs, but I hadn't been a high-powered entrepreneur. So for me, I was experiencing this sort of hesitancy as far as like, what did I want to do? What kind of business did I want to build? I wanted to take the plunge. But to Katie's point, I didn't have those stepping stones or those foundational elements to grasp. And also it was so close to me, right? It's different when you're working for someone and you're building something for someone. When you're trying to do it for yourself, it's so extremely hard. And, entrepreneurship, as probably Des mentioned, is a lonely journey, right? So to have the opportunity to be in Deb's world is an incredible place to be. Like, I've met so many high-powered women. I've met so many incredible people. So if you guys haven't connected already within this room, I highly encourage you to do that. So I think for me, before Launch Lab, extremely hesitant, wasn't sure what I wanted to do. As Deb mentioned, I offered a diner menu of services my first year last year. I was like, yeah, here's 40 pages of things I can do. And I'm doing all these things. And I'm like, ah. And then I slowly started crossing off, what I didn't like. And that was sort of helping guide me. But Launch Lab, really, between the modules and the opportunity to sit in a room with people who are going through the same experience as you week after week, and helping you grow and potentially bringing up conversations that you haven't reached yet in your mind, but they're experiencing because they might be, 5 steps ahead of you in business, or they may be, 2 steps behind you. To have the ability to have those conversations is so unique and so needed, I feel, as you're beginning your entrepreneurship journey. And I started off in the same room like you, on a 5-day course with Deb that I found on Facebook, signed up, and every single day I was more and more impressed with the knowledge that she shared. So for me, it was, if she's sharing this much knowledge with me now, imagine if I can get in a room with her and other people who are building their businesses, and I could, have an exponential growth.
Thank you, Maya. And you both decided to come back and join me again in the Reliable Revenue Mastermind. So I'd love to hear from you, Katie, and like, what was that decision like for you? What was the impetus for coming back to go to the next level?
Well, one of the things that we talk about in Launch Lab is the idea of taking your offerings and recognizing where you can rinse and repeat. And so this idea of rinsing and repeating, and I did it and I implemented it. And so part of my business model has workshops that I can rinse and repeat, customizing them as appropriate, but it's not completely new. And I have a portion of my business in that and a portion of my business in retainer-based business. And I realized that now I had increased my revenue after my work with Deb. And really, I met the next rung to say, okay, how can I continue to scale this and then refine some of those questions in my own head on how I make my model work for where I am in my life right now. And so that was really the impetus to join. And the cohort model and being with a group of folks is super helpful. So
Thank you. And you all have that common background in the Launch Lab. So there's this common language now and this common understanding. So the Launch Lab is sort of a prerequisite unless you're already at a stage where you understand your market deeply, you've been playing in your market for a while, and you're just ready to grow. Maya, what about you? What was behind your decision to join the Reliable Revenue Mastermind?
I think for me, I just truly enjoyed Launch Lab, like I said, from the live weekly meetings and conversations with everyone to having this module-based background to be able to follow through and sort of do things on my own, but then participate as a group as well. And I was reaching the point in my entrepreneur journey where I was saying, okay, I finally realized like what I want to be when I grow up. So I want to narrow, my business down and really focus on being more of an advisor to dynamic businesses and to impactful entrepreneurs and sort of zone in on that. And at the same time, the clients that I had were within my network, right? So they were in my sphere, everyone I knew. And the Reliable Revenue Mastermind, the goal of it for me is to learn how to scope out beyond that, right? To reach all of the people that I have yet to know or yet to meet and build up additional consistent revenue that way. So having such, I guess, a successful run with Deb and Launch Lab, it was a no-brainer for me to move on to the next step of that and be able to continue my journey and, continually just grow. World domination is my ultimate goal, if anyone's wondering.
All right, I want to hog the mic. I'd love to open it up for questions from the group. Does anyone in the room have a question for Katie or Maya? Yes.
I'm a civil engineer for 20 years, lots of business development, growth strategy, and I kind of took a step back because I was burnt out earlier this year, and I'm starting to share, come up with ideas, but really I want to help women engineers get to the C-suite is really what I want to do. So I kind of have narrowed it down to the engineering design consulting industry specifically, because that's where all of my background is. And it's Maya, I do kind of want to talk to just because I have commercial real estate background. But my question is, how did you go about getting some of those retainer clients? And if it sounds like you've both dabbled in fractional work, pros and cons, what you would do differently, because I'm kind of in this phase of trying to decide where my buckets are.
Sounds good. Who would like to go first?
I would say for me, coming from that point where I was burnt out and unfortunately, not to overshare, but I lost 2 parents within the last 2 years. And so that was extremely, extremely devastating. And to go through that and then at the same time be trying to build a business can be extremely, challenging and crazy physically and emotionally. And my biggest thing is grace and space. Like I decided I'm going to give myself the grace and space to try things out and to do what I can and figure things out. And Deb and I would battle back and forth on this as far as like for me, the niching down, like I was so hard pressed against it because I wanted to figure out what would work best for me. And the best advice I can give you honestly is just try. Don't say, okay, I specifically want and you've built this whole outline of all the way down to here of this is the type of client, and this is the type of fractional work I want to do, and this is this type, you won't know unless you do it. Because I pivoted this January to fractional and said, okay, I'm gonna do fractional, and then immediately got an 18-week consultancy client, and I had a bunch of fail forwards doing that and learning from that. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do it this way. And oh, I'm so smart. And, I got this, no problem. And then like 4 weeks in, I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I should have done this, but I learned from it. So since then, I've been able to take those fail forwards and say, okay, I don't want to go into their office. There's no reason for me to do it. I can do it virtually. Or, instead of saying I'm available between these hours, I'm just going to say I'm available during the day. Otherwise, I'm tied to my desk from 9 to 5. And what if they don't have anything for me for 4 hours? But then at 8 p.m., they have something for me. So it was a little bit of live and learn. And I appreciate that I gave myself the opportunity to do that, because it's only going to make me stronger and better. Because now I know, I'm 7 months down the road of the fractional that, hey, now I know what I like, what I don't like, and what really works and what doesn't. So Katie, I'll toss the baton back to you on that.
Sure. So along those lines, the thing that I love, and to go back to your question, you have the sales background. It sounds like a lot of business development. You've been steeped in the engineering world. So you have some of those building blocks, which is phenomenal. What I think that the Launch Lab could conceivably offer you is an opportunity to place a framework to figure out how to make your offerings. And then what you do, and this is to underscore what Maya just shared, then what you do is you test and you tweak. And these can be your offerings. You want to have, you go and you look at other people's websites and damn, they look really good. And they've got it all figured out and they've got it all, well, good for them. That's awesome. And you are starting out. And so what I want for you to be thinking about, and this is Deb's expertise, is say, okay, my first offerings will be, or my first offering will be this. And you're either going to have success with it or it's not going to be what you envision. But no matter what, you're going to A, apply a framework, and B, have learnings that you can extract from whatever those outcomes are. And so that idea of failing forward is that, oh my gosh, but what if I fail? Okay, great. You fail forward, you learn from it, and you say, and you go on and say, wow, these 3 things really sucked. And then, but those 2 things were rock solid. Okay, let's build the next offering or the next whatever with those 2 rock solid learnings and then go forward. So I'm super excited. The engineering space, and you already have the sales, which I know a lot of people is really challenging. So it sounds like you have some really terrific pillars on which you can build.
Was that helpful?
Yeah, thank you both so much. I appreciate that a lot.
And I just want to highlight what a magical moment that was, because you just got to see the room in action. And when you're in a room of, 8, 10, 12 other women who are as amazing as Maya and Katie, and you get to ask a question, I don't even have to say anything. Like, the value of the collective expertise in the room is extraordinary. So thank you. Did you get your question answered about failing forward in that?
Yeah, a little bit, but I'd love to hear your definition of.
Yeah, my definition. So I'm a little weird. I'll admit that up front. And so for me, I don't believe in mistakes, right? I don't think anyone ever makes a mistake. I believe that you don't fail, you don't make a mistake. So I call them fail forwards, because I'm like, okay, if I had a whoopsie, I'll maybe say whoopsie. So if I had a whoopsie, then I'm like, okay, I'm going to learn from it. And 1, make sure it doesn't happen again, or 2, make sure that I learn something from it, right? And I joke, I don't use regular pens. I use erasable pens. So I never make a mistake. And I have packs and packs of them everywhere. And people be like, are you erasing? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I don't make mistakes. That's just what I do over here. So that's my this little thing of fail forward. And actually, just to add on what Katie said, something in the Launch Lab that was amazing for me was there's this whole section on market research, right? Finding that ideal client for yourself. I've done that market research now 3 different times as I've been evolving and reinventing my company and my service offerings. And it's really helped me narrow down to my ideal client and matching them to that gap that I can provide through my offering. So that was a great point Katie made.
Thank you, ladies. And also, There are trendy things that happen, like now AI is on the scene and all of that, but there are certain basics to solid business development and business growth, like market research, that will never change. I mean, you will always be asked to speak with real humans and analyze, what are the common threads? What are the common challenges? What are people looking for? Because that is instrumental to you creating something that people actually want to buy. All right. I'm going to close us out. Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you, Maya, for joining us here today. Thank you for taking the time out of your Friday. And let's close us out here from this amazing week. At least it was amazing for me. I really hope you enjoyed the sessions this week. It just really gives me great joy to do this. So as everyone said, entrepreneurship is a spiritual journey, and great rewards await those who trust themselves and trust in their mission. And that trust is something that grows and develops over time as you grow and develop spiritually and mentally, really, because this is a journey that you haven't traveled before. And so all of it will feel new. And so how do we deal with fear? How do we deal with doubt, insecurity? What do we do when resistance, procrastination, perfectionism, all of those things start to rear up? What about those voices in your head? So we talk a lot in my programs about trusting the niggle. So that feeling that's in your chest, that's pulling you forward, that feels a little fluttery, feels a little nervous. And that's your intuition. That's your intuition. If your intuition is saying, oh my God, I really want to do this and it's scary and I'm not 100% sure about the finances. I'm not 100% sure that I'll get what I need. I'm not 100% sure I'll show up. That is your intuition just telling you move forward. Whenever you feel that, whenever you feel that flutter of excitement, it's telling you this is the right path for you. So move on. So we did the questions. You don't need to go this road alone. This is a journey that's best shared with friends and colleagues who are going to cheer you along and support you, just like Maya and Katie demonstrated for us today. Any other questions?
Deb, real quick, for those of us who aren't quite ready or can't do it, do you run them successively? So like after this one's done, you do another one?
Yes. So we enroll in the Launch Lab every 2 months. So there is some overlap. So it's never empty, right? So there are always people in the Launch Lab, but absolutely, if now is not the right time for you, or, you have too many things going on, I trust your own intuition. I trust your higher wisdom that you're going to make the best decision for you. Anyone else with a question before we close out the room today?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. And I actually feel emotion. Just, you're speaking to me. I'm scared. I'm afraid. And it's been invaluable. So thank you.
Yeah. And if you want to stay on, I'm happy to talk you through the fear.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. I know this is such a gift, your attention. I don't take it lightly. Thank you so much for everything you brought to the room this week. Take care. Thanks for listening, my friend. If you enjoyed this show, please head over to iTunes and subscribe and leave us a review. And be sure to hop over to the Life After Corporate Facebook group and join other growing entrepreneurs to get weekly tips on how to create more money and meaning doing work you love.